FBI Director Kash Patel is testifying at this moment on Capitol Hill, facing tough questions from a Senate Judiciary Committee on his running of the agency. Now, there was some back and forth when Patel was asked about the firings of several heads of the FBI.
The gentleman from New York is recognized. Mr. Goldman.
Mr. Patel, does Donald Trump appear anywhere in the Epstein files?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
It's not a complicated question. Does Donald Trump appear anywhere in the Epstein files?
I didn't say it was a complicated question. I just didn't hear you, so my apologies. We have released where President Trump's name's in the Epstein files and everybody else, and all credible information that we are legally allowed to release has been released.
All right, so let's go through that. You're referring to court orders that prohibit you from releasing grand jury testimony under Rule 6E. Is that what you're referring to when you say as the law allows?
That's a piece of it.
Really? What other evidence do those three court orders you cited prohibit from being released?
Hey everyone, Adam is here. Let me tell you a story about loyalty, immunity, and the moment Donald Trump realized his most trusted ally just became the biggest threat to his freedom. Kash Patel was Trump's guy, the one who went on television constantly, looked into the camera, and swore up and down that Trump had done nothing wrong with the classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. He was the witness Trump's legal team planned to call. The insider who would take the stand and tell the jury that Trump had a standing order to declassify documents, that everything was legal, that the whole case was a witch hunt.
You did testify before the grand jury that President Trump had declassified the documents at issue in the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. Is that correct?
I don't have the grand jury transcript. That's why I released it. Whatever it says is the best evidence.
That's what you said to Senator Whitehouse, that your grand jury testimony was publicly released. It has not been. In fact, in July, a court denied a news outlet's bid to get that transcript. But the court said quite clearly that you are free to discuss your grand jury testimony. So I ask you again, did you testify before the grand jury that President Trump declassified the documents at issue in the Mar-a-Lago classified document case?
And that is why I took your invitation to work with the department and the court to have that transcript released. And the transcript is the best evidence of what I said then.
Kash Patel was supposed to be Trump's salvation. Instead, Kash Patel just became Trump's nightmare. Because Patel testified under oath before a federal grand jury, and everything we know about that testimony suggests he didn't defend Trump.
We're coming back for some brand new breaking news. MS Now has just learned that FBI Director Kash Patel may be out of a job in the coming months. 3 people with knowledge of the situation say President Trump and his top aides have grown tired of Patel and the unflattering headlines he's been generating recently, including using a government jet to visit his girlfriend and enlisting a SWAT team as her security detail.
So Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche of the Justice Department have been annoyed with Patel for a long time, although they've publicly denied it when others have reported it. And now it's increasingly clear that the White House is as well. Now, our reporting this may actually enhance his job security, right? So it's hard to know exactly what's going to happen, but that is the reporting at this hour.
FBI Director Kash Patel has been very busy and doing a great job. Also, thank you, Kash.
He didn't confirm the declassification story. He didn't provide the alibi Trump was counting on. He did the opposite. And now Trump is reportedly going absolutely psycho, screaming at anyone who will listen, because he knows what Patel said. He knows his own ally just handed prosecutors the evidence they need to convict him, and there's nothing he can do to stop it. Let's rewind and understand how we got here, because the timeline is crucial. The Justice Department was investigating the classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. They subpoenaed Kash Patel to testify before the grand jury. Patel was Trump's former chief of staff at the Defense Department, a close confidant who had been intimately involved in the document saga. Prosecutors wanted to know how the documents got to Mar-a-Lago. They wanted to know about Trump's declassification claims. They wanted to know how Trump's team responded to subpoenas demanding the documents back. All questions that Patel had the answers to. But Patel showed up to the grand jury and did something that initially protected both himself and Trump. He invoked the Fifth Amendment. He refused to answer questions. The Fifth Amendment protects against self-incrimination, and Patel was worried that answering honestly might expose him to criminal charges. So he stayed silent. And as long as he stayed silent, prosecutors couldn't get his inside account. They couldn't use his knowledge against Trump. It was a perfect shield. Then November 2022 happened. The Justice Department went to federal judge Beryl Howell and asked for something devastating. Use immunity for Kash Patel. Use immunity means anything Patel says cannot be used to prosecute him, but he has to testify. He can no longer invoke the Fifth because his testimony can't incriminate him. Judge Howell granted the immunity order. Patel was forced to testify, and that's when everything changed. That's when Trump's carefully constructed defense started crumbling. So what did Patel testify about? We don't have the full transcript because grand jury proceedings are secret, but we know exactly what prosecutors asked for immunity to cover. They wanted testimony about how the documents physically moved to Mar-a-Lago. Who packed them? Who transported them? Where were they stored? They wanted testimony about Trump's and Patel's public claims regarding declassification. Were those claims accurate? Was there actually a standing order? Were any declassification procedures followed? They wanted testimony about how Trump's team responded to the National Archives requests and the DOJ subpoena. Were documents returned completely? Were any concealed or moved to hide them from investigators? These are the questions Patel had to answer under oath, with immunity protecting him from prosecution but forcing him to tell the truth. And here's the part that's making Trump lose his mind. Before immunity, Patel was Trump's loudest public defender. He went on TV and said Trump had a standing order to declassify documents he took from the Oval Office. He said Trump declassified whole sets of materials. He said everything at Mar-a-Lago was legal. He was creating the public narrative that would support Trump's defense at trial. But under oath, with perjury penalties hanging over him, Patel couldn't just repeat those talking points. Prosecutors asked detailed questions. How did the declassification process work? What specific procedures were followed? What documents show declassification happened? Who was notified? When did it happen? These aren't questions you can answer with vague claims. They require specific factual responses, and if those responses don't exist, if there were no procedures or documents or notifications, that proves the declassification story was a lie. Former prosecutors have explained exactly what DOJ was doing. They weren't just trying to get information from Patel, they were strategically forcing him under oath to walk back or contradict his public claims. They wanted him to admit that his TV statements were false or exaggerated. They wanted him to acknowledge that there was no actual standing declassification order. They wanted him to confirm that Trump didn't follow any declassification procedures, all of which would undermine Trump's key defense at trial. And from everything we've seen since, that's exactly what happened. Look at Patel's behavior at his FBI director confirmation hearing in 2025. Senators pressed him about his grand jury testimony. They asked what he told prosecutors. They asked if he contradicted Trump's declassification claims. And Patel squirmed. He refused to detail what he said, claiming grand jury secrecy prevented him from discussing his own testimony. But here's the thing. Grand jury secrecy protects the investigation, not the witness. Witnesses are generally free to discuss their own testimony. Patel was using secrecy as an excuse to avoid admitting what he said because what he said was damaging to Trump. He kept insisting he didn't commit a crime, repeating it over and over without being asked. That's consciousness of guilt. That's someone who feels the need to assert innocence because they know their testimony hurt the person they're loyal to. He claimed he couldn't recall everything he testified about. That's classic evasion. You don't forget testimony you gave recently under oath about matters of enormous significance. You remember. You just don't want to admit what you said. So what does all this mean for Trump? It means his key defense witness is destroyed. Trump can't put Patel on the stand to testify about declassification because prosecutors have Patel's immunized grand jury testimony. They know what he said under oath. And if that testimony contradicts his public claims, if he admitted no declassification happened properly, Prosecutors will cross-examine him with his own words. They'll impeach his credibility. They'll show the jury that Patel lied publicly to help Trump and then told the truth under oath. That destroys him as a witness while proving Trump's defense is fabricated. It gets worse. Prosecutors can now call Patel as their witness. They can force him to testify at Trump's trial consistent with his immunized grand jury testimony. And if Patel tries to help Trump by changing his story, prosecutors will impeach him with the grand jury transcript. They'll show the jury that he's committing perjury, lying to protect Trump. That makes Patel radioactive as a defense witness while making him invaluable as a prosecution witness. This is part of a systematic DOJ strategy. They've been using immunity grants to flip Trump insiders one by one. They immunized Allen Weisselberg, forcing him to testify about Trump Organization financial crimes. They immunized Trump lawyers, forcing them to testify about legal advice under the crime fraud exception. They immunized Mar-a-Lago staff, forcing them to testify about document storage. And now they've immunized Kash Patel, forcing him to testify about the most critical element of the entire classified documents case, whether Trump actually declassified anything. Think about what Patel knew. He was inside. He saw how the documents got to Mar-a-Lago. He knew what Trump's team was saying publicly and whether it matched reality. He knew how they responded to subpoenas and whether they tried to hide things. He was the perfect witness for the prosecution, and DOJ used immunity to turn him into exactly that. And Trump can't stop it. He can't prevent immunized testimony from being used against him. He can't claim privilege because immunity overrides it for criminal matters. He can't intimidate Patel because immunity protects him from prosecution. He can't control the narrative because prosecutors have sworn testimony, not public spin. All he can do is watch as his own allies' words are used to destroy his defense. The declassification argument was always Trump's strongest potential defense. If he could convince a jury that he genuinely believed the documents were declassified, that he had a standing order, that he didn't know he was doing anything wrong, he might have had a chance. But Patel's testimony destroys that. If Patel testified that there was no standing order, that no declassification procedures were followed, that Trump's public claims were false, the jury will hear that from someone who was there. Someone who worked for Trump, someone who had every reason to protect him but couldn't because he was under oath with immunity. That's devastating. And the obstruction charges? Even worse. If Patel testified about documents being moved or concealed, about incomplete responses to subpoenas, about efforts to hide materials from investigators, that's direct evidence of Trump's intent. That's proof he knew what he was doing was wrong. That's consciousness of guilt that prosecutors will hammer home to the jury. This is why Trump is reportedly going psycho. This is why he's screaming at aides, why he's lashing out, why he's telling anyone who will listen that Patel betrayed him. Because Patel didn't just testify, he testified truthfully. And the truth, as it turns out, is devastating. The truth is that the declassification story was a lie. The truth is that Trump knowingly retained classified documents. The truth is that his team obstructed efforts to get them back. And now that truth is locked in sworn testimony, immune from attack, ready to be used at trial. So here's where we stand. Kash Patel was Trump's most loyal defender on television. He was the witness Trump planned to call to save him. And now Patel is the witness prosecutors will call to convict him. That's the power of immunity. That's the strategy DOJ executed perfectly. They took Trump's insider, stripped away his Fifth Amendment protection, forced him to testify under oath, and got the evidence they needed to destroy Trump's defense. Patel's testimony is now part of the permanent record. It will be used at trial. It will be heard by the jury. And Donald Trump, the man who thought he could control everyone around him, the man who believed loyalty meant everything, is learning the hardest lesson of his life. Under oath with immunity, loyalty doesn't matter. The truth does. And the truth is going to put him in prison.